Media BFA information session. We're going to be talking to, hearing from our area coordinators for each of the tracks. So Chuck Abraham of graphic design, Sheila Briggs for character animation, and Matt Jambrowski from experimental animation. And we'll also hear from advising, and we'll also hear from our director of the school. So we'll go ahead and get started. All right, so first of all, I'd like to introduce our School of Visual Arts and Design Director, Dr. Rudy Mcdaniel, and he's actually with us today, so. Hi, Rudy.
Hi, thank you so much, Hannah and Wahida and Chuck and Matt and Cheryl for organizing this session, and thanks to all of you for coming. It's great to see so many people attending the session today. I asked for half an hour to talk to you this morning, but Hannah only gave me 1 minute, so I'm going to be very brief. But my main job is just to say welcome. So happy to see you all, as I mentioned. And, you know, this is an exciting area for Svad. It's one of our fastest growing areas. We have a lot of students interested in these programs. And the thing that stands out to me about Emerging Media, we've got great facilities. We've got a lot of cool software, a lot of really neat projects, and all those things are wonderful, but it's really the people, I think, that make these programs so great. Top quality faculty, really amazing students who are in the programs, terrific alumni network. You'll see some of the many examples of places that students and alumni have gone on to work after they finish the programs. So yeah, I'm happy that you're here, and always available. If you have any questions beyond what your area coordinators can answer for you, please feel free to reach out to me. My email is really simple. It's just rudy@ucf.edu, RUDY. And looking forward to the presentation and meeting you all, hopefully seeing you soon in one of our Emerging Media tracks. So welcome, everybody.
Thanks, Rudy. All right, so we're gonna just look over really quickly some rankings that we're really proud of. We are #2 nationally among public schools and colleges, which is puts us at the top 3%, which is really exciting. We're number 21 for the top 50 nationally, and this is for our animation tracks. We're #4, top 20 in the South, #3, which is the top 10 in Florida, #18, which is the top 50 nationally among schools offering an animation Bachelor of Fine Arts degree. So all these rankings come from Animation Career Review. You can check them out later and see more rankings. Actually, those are just a few. But we also have some for graphic design as well. So we're #4 in Florida for graphic design, and we're #14. We're in the top 25 in the South for graphic design, which puts us at the top 9%. All right, so you should know, but we have 3 tracks in Emerging Media, and you may be interested in one or a couple of them, but we have character animation, experimental animation, and graphic design. And each of these tracks require a portfolio review, and you have to maintain a 3.0 GPA in all of your major courses. All right, so I'm going to hand it over to Chuck Abraham. He's going to talk a little bit about graphic design.
Thanks, Hannah. Basically, it is a 2-year cohort program, and what that means quite simply is that once you've completed those foundation courses and all of your required courses that that put you up to the point where you're ready to go ahead and apply for the portfolio aspect of it, and you're accepted in the program, it's 2 years sequential, which means all of the courses that you take are prerequisites for the following course in the series. We take right now, we take about 70 students a year. We have we'll talk a little bit more about the process as it goes. As we go along here, you'll see some more stats on that. But typically we have around 200 applicants a year. Out of that year, out of the application pool, we'll take 70 students. And that in turn translates to 2 cohorts of 35. You can see some of the things that we concentrate on. It's really about visual communication. It's really covers a wide gamut as to what those deliverables that we sort of stress in our program on creating and how they're created. but they have a wide spectrum of what they're applied to across the industry. So I really think that really is a little more concise on the application process. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we go along down the line there.
Thanks. And you can see all this information on our website as well. The links are below. You'll see for each of these. So then for character animation, Professor Cheryl Briggs.
Hi, everybody. So we're always asked, what's the difference between character animation and experimental animation? So here's where you're going to learn that. So our students focus on teamwork and collaboration, creating a single film over the course of the 2 years, which is similar to graphic design. Like you have to do all of the prerequisites your first couple of years in college, in university, whether you did them somewhere else or at UCF, that's great. And then you apply in February for the program. So over the final 2 years of your studies, you would be working on teams of 15. We do 2 teams of 15 because we can only accept 30 into the program. And you'll be learning all the aspects of the animation pipeline, which are listed there for you on the slide. And so you're able to, your senior year, kind of focus on 2 or 3 different areas, or one solid area, depending on where your interests lie. I can tell you that most of the students come in wanting to be animators, but then they realize there's so many more job roles that you can do in the pipeline. So somebody may come in wanting to be an animator and deciding that lighting and texturing is really where they excel and their interest lies. So you get the opportunity to do that while working on a film with a team of students. And what we get back from our alumni is that the biggest thing that really helps them working in the industry is that ability to navigate interpersonal relationships on teams with people that you've been working with for 2 years. It really helps them get a foot in the door and interesting things to talk about when they're being interviewed. So that is what character animation is all about.
Thank you. Right, and then we have Professor Matthew Jambrowski with experimental animation.
I'm in trouble. She called me Matthew. Hi, everyone. My name is Matt Jambrowski. I am an associate professor, and experimental animation, as Cheryl said, to kind of build off of where she started with the group-based work. My lights just went out. It's always good. Focuses more on an individualized artistic study. So whereas in the character animation program, it's more of a production-based style, we focus on those 2 years to explore and develop artworks using student individual style and methodology. So we have students just like in the other animation track, which they focus in all sorts of things. We have 3D visualization, motion graphics, stop motion, 3D and 2D animation, visual effects, and even game art. And our goal is that all of our students, and realistically, this is the same for most of all of the tracks here today in emerging media, really come out of the program with an understanding of digital citizenship, that they produce thoughtful and researched artistic content, and use what they've learned at UCF to go out there and make a positive impact in the world. So experimental animation students will kind of explore, or hence experiment with, multiple mediums inside of everything from motion and beyond, like Cheryl mentioned. The umbrella of animation holds a lot of cool kind of sub niches within it. So that's the big difference between our program. And again, both tracks are 2 years in study, a junior year. And then in our case, the senior year really focuses on the student honing in that niche, honing in that specific area of study to help better prepare them for the professional world.
Thanks, Matt. All right, and then
I'm still talking. Hi.
Yes.
So there's a bit of new things happening in experimental animation. We are kind of transitioning to our very own cohort system, much like character animation and graphic design. So this upcoming spring will be the first ever experimental animation portfolio review. Previously, students would apply through the studio art portfolio, and this portfolio review will be solely conducted through the experimental animation faculty. So a couple of great things that come with this are further development of more specialized classes. So those who apply and are accepted for the fall 2020 cohort, and we're looking for a cap of around 90 students due to our facilities and our faculty numbers currently, will be offered the variety of classes to take, whether it's modeling, 3D modeling, procedural animation, which is more of a technical based animation using things other than keyframes. And more importantly, we're going to be offering a few more professional practice classes. So students will have a class right at the beginning of the program in junior year to kind of develop that professionalism, prepare them for perhaps internships, and kind of give them the best foot forward for their 2 years of study. And then in the spring semester of their senior year, they will receive another professional development class that allows them to take what they've learned over the 2 years and really prepare it for the professional world and job placement. So we're really excited about that as well. There will also be a stop motion animation class, which we're really excited about for all students to take. I hit my arrow, but next slide, please. So used to it. This is just a brief overview of the new 2-year experimental animation cohort track. We may reference this slide through some questions later, but I wanted to make sure that we had access to it. So lots of exciting things and growth within our experimental animation program. And we're really looking forward to kind of beginning to develop that cohort style of learning. Thank you.
Awesome. And then we do have our facilities. These are the primary rooms for each of the tracks. You will see most of them are on main campus in the visual arts building, but we do have for the seniors in character animation, they take their classes over in the Research Parkway area in OTC 500. And of course, we have tons of alumni working in wonderful places like Pixar, Stereo D, Etsy, Archer. They're working on films like Wonder Woman and television stations like Nickelodeon, ABC, CBS, and the list goes on. I mean, we could spend a whole PowerPoint just on talking about our alumni. And we will talk a little bit more about some of them. There we go. All right, so next we'll talk a little bit about our faculty. And so character animation, Cheryl, if you want to go ahead.
Sure. We have slides for each of our faculty, but just as a brief overview, we have 4 faculty that teach in character animation: Joanne Adams, myself, Darlene Hedricka, and Dr. Stella Song. Joanne Adams comes from Disney. She worked on all kinds of feature films like everything from Little Mermaid, Lion King, up to Mulan and Lilo and Stitch and Brother Bear. And so her areas of research and interests, or specialty areas, are camera and layout, story and script writing, film theory, and visual theory. And that's her with one of our alumni receiving an award. So yeah. And then myself, I am come from more of an academic side. I'm an author and I write books. I've also done client work and freelance work. So my areas of interest are narrative storytelling, rigging for animation, character animation, and animation production. And there I am at Pixar with one of our alumni, Teresa Falcone, and one of my former students from another school that I used to teach at. And then we have Darlene Hedricka. She's a little bitty one, second from the left. She also comes from the Disney era, but she's also worked in all types of places and films, from California, Atlanta to Orlando. And she is specifically, her areas are animation, visual effects, compositing, and animation history. And she's also the faculty advisor for the UCF SIGGRAPH student chapter. And then finally, we have Dr. Stella Sung. She always likes to say she is not an animator. She just likes to hang with them. So she is our resident musician. She's also a Pegasus professor and trustees professor. And her areas of research and interest is composing award-winning music and cinematic music. She also helps our students work with sound design, Foley, and sound effects. All right.
All right,
then-
moving.
Go ahead. Next, we have
Move-
experimental animation. Yep.
Thank you, Hannah. Moving on to experimental animation, we have Michael Cabrera, who's a lecturer who focuses on procedural animation, lighting and rendering, real-time rendering, CGI live action integration, and then also 2D and 3D stop motion. And Michael comes from us from the SCAD in Savannah, and we're really excited to have him here as a lecturer. This guy is me. I am, my areas of interest before I became an educator is I worked with motion graphics professionally. So I did commercial work for Disney TV. I did commercial work for the NBA, all sorts of different companies, which was really rewarding and a great way to get kind of my feet into the industry. My focus with them was motion graphics and 3D. Right now, I am creative director for Limitless Solutions, and that's a DSO on UCF campus where we provide expressive, artful 3D printed bionics to children's, veterans, and first responders at no cost. So I've kind of transitioned into that philanthropic world, the nonprofit world, kind of using art for positive change and good. And then we have Scott Hall, who's also a musician. We like to, each track has its musician, right? Scott focuses on both sculpture and sound art. He actually creates and 3D prints his own musical instruments, which is really amazing. He is also a video artist as well. If you've ever been to Hollywood Studios and gone to the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids playground, Scott was actually years ago the one who carved those grass blades that you see in that playground, which is always fascinates me. And we have Professor Keith Kovach. Keith is a brilliant photographer, a Fulbright scholar. He focuses in a lot of experimental media. What we mean by that is like hybrid. So he'll involve 3D printing, VR, interactive media together to create his artworks. And then last but not least, we have Angela Hernandez Carlson, who is visiting us this year as a visiting lecturer. She focuses on 2D and 3D animation, digital compositing, and a strong focus in narrative storytelling. So we're very blessed to have Angela here for the year as on our visiting line. And then there's this guy.
Design.
Yes, I'm the one in the middle, and yes, I am standing up there. So yeah, no. I've already introduced myself earlier. Chuck Abraham, associate professor. I worked a little bit. I've been at UCF for 25 years, but this is my 48th year working as a designer and illustrator. Started out at PBS, went to from there to a variety of advertising firms all across the South and West. And then ultimately wound up back here around in the deep South and then over in Florida. And I worked for Disney Imagineering for about 5 years. And from there, I was hired to start the creative services department for Universal Studios. And these are some of my area of research: illustration, typography, lettering design, and graphic design as well, of course. We have Dr. Ju Kim, who works, she's very, very involved in our foundational design, which is an incredibly important part of getting students ready for that cohort experience. She also is heavily involved with the typography courses that we teach. And those are open up not just to our graphic design students, but to other BFA students as well. And she does a really good job of covering that content for us. Chad Cameron is one of our lecturers. Chad's background is primarily in book illustration. He's been last couple of years been very heavily involved with UX design, and also has been working with Adobe. He actually worked with Adobe to produce a series of promotional videos for their Fresco software, and he was dressed up as Bob Ross during those, and they were pretty successful for them. He also concentrates on some typography design and lettering. He recently developed the curriculum for our Typography 2 course that's in the pipeline. And finally, we have Victor Davila. He's a newly minted associate professor. Victor is just has interest in all areas, not just of graphic design and illustration, but really concentrates on the design community as well. He has a very far reach in terms of his mentorship that he's done for students, and he's just a really terrific program and a really terrific asset for our program.
All right, so next we have some of our prerequisite and core requirements for character animation. Is there anything you want to add here, Cheryl?
Just to remind everybody that you must be completed or enrolled in the course by the time you apply. So if you haven't taken the course or are not enrolled in that course by spring and you're thinking maybe over the summer I'll take it, that is not going to give you the ability to be reviewed. So if you submit your portfolio, you won't even get past the submission. Like you'll submit it, but you won't go any further than that. So please make sure that if you're unclear on anything, I know we're going to have advisors talk soon, so make sure you confirm with them if there's anything that's not clear.
And then experimental animation. Do you want to add anything, Matt?
Yeah, I think, Cheryl hit everything on the head with these prereqs, y'all. We've done a pretty good job of aligning most of them. You'll notice a lot of similarities, if not all of them at this point. Wahida may correct me in a second. But that's really important. You want to make sure that you consistently work with your SVAD academic advisors. You want to, in which they'll talk in a few minutes, but you want to regularly create or make appointments with them as you go to assure that you have all the foundations in place before you move on to those specialized studies and specialized tracks. For ours is going to look a little different. So I've included a slide briefly just to showcase that. We will actually be holding, we've already held an experimental animation portfolio review session, which Hannah has posted on SVAD social media, and it's also on the SVAD website for people to look into. But we are asking for some unique things in comparison to what you may have seen from last year. So depending on when you did your research for the experimental animation portfolio, this spring 22 portfolio, a few things have changed. So not to go into detail with it, we can save that for another time. But these are the kind of 4 sections that we're going to be looking for from students applying. And again, that is capped at 90 students, which would give us about 3 cohorts to get through the track.
And then graphic design.
Yeah, again, the prerequisites are going to be pretty close to what you're going to find for the other 2 tracks, if not exactly the same. It does work a little bit different in terms of what we're looking for in our portfolio. We're not looking for X amount of samples from X amount of foundation areas, or it's a little more open. You can put in samples of professional work if you've had an opportunity to produce anything like that. It can be personal work as well. It can be a wide variety of media, but we do like to see some examples of from those foundation areas. Those are essential so that we understand that where you are in the process of understanding the criteria for just basic design. So we'll cover over a little bit more of this as we have as you guys have some questions on this, but it's essentially boils down to 15 pages, no larger than 15, a document that's no larger than 15 pages. Multiple samples can be included per page, but it has to be a consolidated PDF at a certain resolution. We have we have on the website again complete instructions on how to construct that document.
Yeah, I just want to add for each of these tracks, all of this information can be found on our website. It goes into really clear detail of what exactly you need for each track's portfolio requirements. So please definitely check out our website. And next we'll have advising. So Wahida Elazari is going to be
Thank
speaking.
you. So this is our advising team. I hope that everyone attending this session would have had the opportunity to meet with us. Definitely you would have seen us or some of us in the orientation sessions. If you have not yet made your appointment to see us for the spring semester, please go ahead and do so now. We sent an email about a week ago reminding you to set up your appointments, and those are filling up quickly, so go ahead and schedule that. So we have Marlene and Jessica who are our main advisors, and they see the majority of the students. Most of you, I think, have met with them already. I will see students from time to time, and then we have Sam, who is answering all of your emails on your phones as phone calls as they come in. He schedules all of our appointments for us and keeps us intact too. So there's a couple of differences. You know, you may come to us for advising, and we may send you off to a faculty for additional information. So we put together a list of, you know, some of the things that you could find with from an academic advisor, and for some reasons we would send you out to the faculty for advising. You definitely want to see Svad advising, which is your major advising office for academic course planning, you know, semester scheduling assistance. We will go through portfolio requirements with you. So we will actually check your degree audit and your academic records to ensure that you have all of the prerequisites right and you're ready to submit portfolio. We will look at your GPA eligibility and let you know if you are meeting that or not. We would discuss other options for programs with you. We always tell students always have a alternate plan in mind, because these programs are very competitive to get into. So we don't want you stuck, you know, at some point in your career or your academic career. So we always have a backup plan in place. We would discuss internship credit and the process for getting enrolled in an internship. And then we always check on your progress towards graduation. And this is why we want you to see us at least once a semester. If we're not able to answer certain questions, we will ask you to follow up with your area coordinator or faculty within your major or your specialization. And regarding specific course content or major content, work to include in your portfolio. So we don't, you know, necessarily tell you you should include this or not. Your area coordinators and faculty will be best to give you that type of advice. Specific questions about the major, again, you would want to ask your area and specialization coordinators. And we always refer students to speak with the faculty within their area or their track regarding specific internships, because your faculty is very involved in the community, in the industry and community. And so they know typically if there's internships out there. So this is a brief, you know, idea of what you would see us for in Svad advising and what you would go out to your faculty for advising. Again, it's so super important that you come and see us, you know, for advising at least once a semester before registration starts. Don't wait until you get your appointment date to schedule your appointment, because right now we are scheduling all the way into November, second week in November. So, you know, respond to that email and get yourself an appointment set up early as possible. Okay, next slide. So here are some important dates that are coming up, and these are in spring. So keep a note of that. Again, all of this information will be on the individual portfolio websites for each of the programs, and we will post those in the chat also. Thank you.
All right, and then speaking of the website, This is what our website looks like. We've been posting some links in the chat for you for each of the tracks. But this is also a really good place to find out information like scholarship dates and deadlines that are, specific scholarships for the visual arts, news and events that are coming up. We have a whole section on each of those, announcements, as well as portfolio information, which are the links that are again in the chat right now. But this is a really, really good resource for you to use. There's all the information is here, and faculty information is here as well. So if you need to get in contact with a specific faculty member, we have our whole list of faculty. It's filtered by area, so you can find exactly who you need to reach out to. We have some other resources available to you, like I talked about scholarships. We have labs with open lab hours. They depend upon the semester, but we do have equipment for you to use. And we also have some really great clubs. We have a couple that are animation related, Women in Animation, and the UCF Graph chapter, as well as the Graphic Design Student Association and others. And those are free or have member dues. You just have to show up. And then we also have UCF shuttles available. I believe we have shuttles that go back and forth to Research Parkway. And we also have, they're still doing it now, I'm not sure, but shuttles to Publix. So if you need to do Publix run, but definitely take advantage of those. News and events, speaking of, if you have any exciting projects that are lined up for the semester, let me know. And that could be anything from winning a really awesome award, scholarship. If you have a passion project that's going viral on TikTok right now, if you're going on Jeopardy, anything that's really big like that, we want to showcase that and share that news. So please email me. My email's right there. It's hannah.estes@ucf.edu, and we'll get the word out. And lastly, for my section, follow us if you're not already on our social media channels. We have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. These are all places where we share information, events, and also really great, awesome stories from students and alumni. So make sure you're following us there, each of those. And then lastly, we're just going to go through just some fun images from each of our tracks. Like this one, it's in the graphic design studio with Professor Victor Davila. Character animation, they have their senior presentations typically at the end of the spring semester. See. And then we have traditional animation equipment available to you. This was in the experimental animation classroom space. We also attend some awesome conferences that we get student discounts for, like Creative South, which is up in Georgia. This is for graphic design. Character animation presentations, we did a lot of them on Zoom, of course, over the last year and a half. So there's some narrative sculptures from experimental animation classroom. Graphic design senior showcase. Character animation presentation. Some art direction presentation. Graphic designers using traditional printing press. This is from experimental animation classroom. Character animation premieres, which we had virtually the past 2 years. We have our own conference that's organized by the Graphic Design Student Association called Citrus Space that we've hosted at the University of Central Florida's main campus. Some more cohort films from character animation. and an image of experimental animation as one of the senior courses. And yeah, so if you have specific questions about the track, please email your area coordinator or SVAD advisor, and their information is right here for you. But that's it for the presentation. So we're going to go ahead and open it up for questions. So if you have a question, you can either raise your hand and we'll allow you to speak and go in order if you raise their hands, or you can type it in the chat box, whichever you prefer. Okay, it looks like we have a question from Isabel.
Yes, so I have a question regarding like the portfolio stuff. Are they only in the spring? Because I'm a freshman right now, but like I'm actually like almost ready to submit my portfolio because of the previous credits I had. So my situation is a little bit messed up right now because whatever, but is it only in spring? Because if so, then I'm kind of screwed.
For experimental, it is the experimental animation portfolio is spring only. Chuck, I believe graphic design as well.
All of ours are only
Yeah,
spring.
we're all
Yeah.
spring only.
All three tracks are spring.
So what happens sometimes the students might do a minor in something else that maybe would give them some more coursework to focus on until that rolls around.
And
But Wahida, do you have any other?
Yeah, I was gonna say, Isabel, you probably want to follow up with advising for us to look at what what your situation is, and we can make some recommendations.
Yes, I did. I got a response today, and it was, let's just say it's not what I was hoping for, because
Right. I think I was the one who responded to that.
quick
But
summary of my situation. I need drawing 1 and drawing 2, but
Isabel, if I could interrupt you real quick, we have I think that would be better to put privately with Wahida.
Yes.
Because we have about 65 participants, so we don't want to get in too deep into individual situations. But
okay.
definitely follow up with Wahida. And Wahida, if you're willing, put your email in the chat, and she'll be able to.
Just send an email to SVAD advising, and it will be tagged to me, so I can follow up with you for sure. But we just definitely do not want to have any kind of FERPA violations also, or FERPA issues with what we discussed. So definitely follow up with us in advising.
Okay, emails just usually don't work for me, but I'll try it.
But we can set up an appointment. So.
All right. Any more questions? If you want to speak, just raise your hands. I'll go down to the chat and see.
Trying to answer things in chat, but
Okay.
There's quite a few questions down there.
Okay.
So how do you want to handle the chat questions, Hannah? Do you want to read them out, or?
Yeah, if you see one that hasn't been answered, if you could read it out loud. I just can't tell from.
So there's one from Alexandra. It's, where do I get information and how I can do the portfolio? The links in the chat above will guide you to the website that has all the portfolio information.
Can you put those links again?
Sure.
And while we do that, I see a question from Uriel. Uriel Davidson?
Oh. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good afternoon. I have a question about character animation. I'm confident I have the work for the portfolio, but I'm missing 2 classes. While I take those 2 classes in the spring, would that prevent me from getting accepted, or?
No, you would be accepted provisionally, assuming you pass those courses.
Yeah, so, okay. All right.
Conditional acceptance. So you are accepted on the condition that you actually finish and get those courses completed. I think
Oh,
they
okay.
have a C or better, Wahida, is that correct?
Yes, these are better.
You're better, yeah.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. So one of the things I said at the, we had a Q&A last night just for character animation. But one of the things I want to remind everybody is if you're applying for multiple tracks, so you might apply for both experimental and character, we're going to be having wait lists because somebody may decide they want to go into experimental more than character. And if we both accept them, then we'll go to the next person on the wait list when we find out they accepted experimental, not character. So just keep that in mind. Your first email from advising may be you've been placed on a wait list. So just don't fret if you are, because the likeliness that you might be accepted is possible this year, more so than ever, I think.
There's a question from Parker. If you apply for all 3 portfolios, can you use the same artwork in the portfolio?
Absolutely.
Partially.
I mean, if the same requirements, like I know experimental has very similar requirements for character.
But graphic design does not. We're very different from both
Right.
both you guys.
If it fits the requirements, I would say yes.
Yeah.
I would definitely read the websites.
Yeah. And check there. I also see someone's asking about how do we get in contact with the faculty advisors? Our email, that's going to be the best way to reach us.
Yeah.
So,
Which all that's on our website.
and that's all on the website, right?
I have a question. Oh, am I allowed to ask a question?
Sure.
I don't know how to raise my hand. So I have a meeting with my Svad advisor in November about my spring 2022 schedule. And I already assigned my schedule for that semester. If I don't have the last few necessary prerequisites for the character and experimental tracks in that schedule, would that November meeting be too late to add those in, or?
You definitely want to reach out back to us. Let's take a look at your schedule. So send an email to SVAD advising and we'll take a look at that.
All right. I don't know how to find my my 2022 spring schedule.
We would have a record of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know how to. Can I not find it, or?
No, go ahead and send us an email and we will take a look and see what we have, because we should have a record of what we recommended.
Okay.
And if anybody's emailing us, please include your UCF ID, because it's important for us to be able to look up your records with that number.
Is the email at SVAD advising?
I'm putting it in the chat right now.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Okay. Thank you.
Carla Bangston has her hand up.
Yeah, Carla, go ahead.
Hi, how's everyone doing?
Hi there.
Hi. I had a question about the portfolios. I see that you guys put up the important dates, January to February. So that's the range and time that the portfolios will be open. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. In that case, if we're still enrolled in the classes, like in spring, like the last prerequisite classes, what do you suggest we send in to satisfy, like, for example, I'm going to be taking a 3D class at that time. So would I be able to send in to satisfy that 3D portion of the portfolio?
Well, again, each portfolio is going to be slightly different in what they're asking for. On the graphic design side, it would be what you consider to be your best piece up to that point. But it doesn't have to necessarily, there's no number of pieces attached to that. So
yeah.
For character animation, we don't require 3D work, but if you have it, there's a category for it.
And for experimental, it's we necessarily don't have everyone always submit classwork either. So there have been students who maybe have done a strong professional piece or even just a piece for fun, and it really speaks for their work. So we're not necessarily in experimental looking for only classwork. So we highly encourage students to be creating inside and outside of class. And really, like Chuck said, submit your best work.
yeah, that's what it's all about.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, I'll go to the chat for a question. Could we possibly apply for all 3 of the digital art tracks? As of now, my current major intended is graphic design pending, but I'm more interested in character animation. Just to be clear, I'm a freshman. Yes, you can apply to all 3 tracks if you're interested.
Vanessa asked for the dates previously posted. Would those be for portfolio submission or for the portfolio review? So those are for the submission, and then the faculty review over the next 2 weeks. So February 14th is the deadline at 5 p.m.
Yeah.
Also, we encourage students not to wait until the deadline or the last 2 days, because that's when we see numerous students applying, and then there can be all kinds of issues. So please, if you have your portfolio ready, apply early.
Yeah.
Let's just say if you apply at the last day, it doesn't look good. It looks like you wait till the last minute to do everything, and that's not exactly what you want to be representing yourself as, right?
Okay, there's another question in the chat. Does character animation focus only on 3D animation? I'm not sure what type of animation I'll be best suited for. I'm leaning towards possibly stop motion, claymation. So should I focus on EA or experimental animation?
Absolutely, because we do 3D mostly, and then some 2D elements, sometimes a character or effects, but we don't have the space or the ability to do stop motion in the undergraduate track. That would definitely be more in line with experimental. So Matt might.
Yeah, and to build off of that, and it's just very clear, because I think sometimes there's a misconception that Cheryl and I will kind of usually address, but it depends in their case, obviously, like she just said, on the film, on the team, on the style that they want to kind of produce. For experimental, there is a survey of all different types of animation. So we often have found, and Cheryl, you mentioned this in the beginning of the talk, that students may not know they're interested in something until they try that particular style or medium. So in experimental, you will be doing a little bit of 2D animation, 3D animation, modeling, stop motion, traditional sculpting as well. And then senior year, usually students, in your case, if you're interested in claymation, you may really focus your senior year on really developing a nice narrative claymation piece.
Matt, it's like you're experimenting with animation.
It's weird, right?
Right?
Thank you. For core course requirements, do we have to take them all before applying? If yes, how would be the process? So for experimental animation and character animation, you have to have completed or be enrolled in all 13 of those courses, and you can find them on the portfolio website. For graphic design, it's not all of them. I think it's 6, or let me get to that website. Hold on a second. There's 8 courses that you would have to have completed or be enrolled in. And again, that's definitely an advising situation. So follow up with advising, and we'll be happy to clarify that for you.
There's another question, maybe I'm not sure the answer, so I'll read it. Someone else can pipe in. This is Alexandra. I did have a question about labs and equipment. I'm currently taking my classes online and at the downtown campus. I'm looking to get some more skeletal drawings / still lifes done for my portfolio. Are there open studio hours to be able to utilize the room and equipment?
Chuck, do you want to answer that? I believe the studios, it depends with COVID procedures, but should be open after class
talking
hours.
about just drawing from the props because there are props set up out in the hallways. And so a student could bring their actually easels out there too. As long as they have their drawing tools and pad, the building is open until about 10 o'clock at night. So it would be possible for a student you would have to have your ID, obviously, to get in. But yeah, you should have no problem using those props and still lifes that are already in place out in the hallways. And most of those are consisted of skeletons, animal and human. So, yeah.
It's always good to just draw anywhere. You can
Just
set up
draw
a still life
observation.
in your, set up a still life in your room, or Go outside.
And that's something that all of us do lean toward. We do want to see, well, maybe not all of us, I'm speaking, but, observational drawing is really important.
It
In
is.
experimental, we encourage students to lean away from fan art when it comes to their portfolios. We love to see original art, obviously, but copywritten fan art, things like that, really definitely, for us at least, avoid that. And you can't go wrong with a great observational drawing.
Yeah.
Perspective, proportions, things like that.
Originality is the key. You want to be, whatever you're producing, it should be something that you've done on your own,
Right.
and not just mimicking something else.
I mean, you can be influenced by, but you cannot, don't send us Mickey Mouse drawings because, that's not what we're looking for.
Yeah.
Character animation really focuses on the Pixar Disney model of creating work, and family friendly. That's another distinction, I think, between character and experimental. Like if you have
more dangerous
ideas, you can go into experimental with those.
Thanks, Cheryl.
But yeah, I mean, if you blow things up and guts are flying, you may not want to write that in your story for character. We're looking for family friendly entertainment. That's a key.
Going back to the chat, I see kind of to build off of that. Karina is asking, I understand that experimental and character animation portfolio require time-based media. Is there any events or anything that can help us teach how to animate? And I want to be clear for at least experimental, and please, Cheryl, if I'm off on character, we're not always necessarily looking for animation. One of your prereqs is your DIG 2030 class, which is Intro to Video Fundamentals. I may be getting that title wrong. A lot of students will use their live action pieces, under basic competency, not mastery, but competency of perhaps editing, camera shots, sequential narrative. It doesn't necessarily have to be hand-drawn, 3D animated or anything like that. It could be, in our case, a GIF even.
Yeah, and it could be music in our case, because we'll take music. One of the things I learned last night, by the way, Matt, is that they're not teaching editing in that class. So we might have to have
teaching editing
no. Nope. So we need to talk about that later.
Yeah.
But
I think, in our day and age, there's a lot of great, animation for social media. People do a lot, Insta stories, there's a lot of ways to capture how you use movement to, and visuals combined, whether it's live action, moving pictures, whatever it may be, to kind of achieve that. So I would definitely encourage you to lean toward that.
And just don't forget, you have free access to LinkedIn Learning through UCF. So if you want to learn how to do something over the Christmas break, then utilize LinkedIn Learning to maybe help you do that so that you can put something together. But we don't expect you to submit an animation. You can, but live action would be fine,
It could be shot on one of these. You can't see it. I'm holding a cell phone.
Yeah.
All right, so there's a question. Sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
There's a question regarding advising. It says on my UCF, my advisor is a advisor, even though I am Emerging Media BFA for graphic design track. Should I email SFAT advisors or the one I have in my UCF? So your advisor actually will assist with general university requirements and foreign language requirements, things like that. SFAT advising is for your major. So all of you here should definitely be meeting with an SFAT advisor. So email SFAT advising to set up that appointment. We will also recommend that you meet with your CASA advisor or CA advisor, but for sure you want to meet with us in SFAT.
Daniel Braga says, I've considered adding a creative writing minor along with my major, but I've been told that graphic design courses will be very rigorous to do along with that. What is your recommendation? The same could apply with the other emerging media majors too. I can tell you from character animation, you want to only do the character animation courses during the time you're in character animation. It's very difficult to do additional coursework. We expect you, it's kind of like a conservatory. We expect you to come in and work from morning to night, and after class, you're expected to continue working. It's very difficult to hold another job a lot of our students will work during the summer and Christmas break and save their money. Because we do have students that work on weekends, but their studies suffer. What they get out of the program does suffer because they're not around their team all the time and they're having a hard time keeping up with everything. So I would, if you want to do something like a minor or another major, I would do that before or after you apply, like once you finish the 2 years.
See another question from Emily. Is there any way to see past portfolios or examples for how the portfolio should look like?
We have sorry, Chuck.
No, go ahead.
We on the link for the animation portfolio, we actually have an info session where we shared past works from experimental animation students. So definitely give that link a look. I believe it's on YouTube where you can kind of fast forward and kind of see examples of all the categories in which you're going to apply. We also, for experimental, myself personally, will be holding, and Hannah and Wahida will send this out to all the students, a few review opportunities for students to come via Zoom. And, if they need any feedback or get anything, that's just for experimental right now, not to put anything on my colleagues. But keep an eye out for those. Come end of October, early November, we're going to start those.
So I pasted a link in the chat for our character animations video open house informational session and virtual tour. So there is a section, part 4 is all on portfolio, where we go through, Darlene, I think, is the one narrating and going through example work that's been submitted before.
Yeah, and for graphic design, you can check out the GDSA, Graphic Design Student Association site. They've got some samples posted of successful portfolios from the past. Also, in January, we will be holding an open session where students that are considering applying the program can bring their portfolios prior to submission, and they'll be reviewed by faculty that are working in the area, as well as students who have gone through the process. And that's usually in January.
I'm not sure if this one was answered already. For Madeline, can you submit a short film from media class for time-based as well if you don't have animation?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just make sure. Now, Cheryl, I believe ours are very similar, but there is a time limit.
Yep, we have a 1 minute time limit for character.
I believe ours is the same. Yeah, just because we do get so many portfolios, we want to be careful to not watch 2 hours. Though I'm sure it's fantastic. Pick the best minute.
With 120 applicants, guess what? We have 2 hours right there, 1 minute each.
Yeah.
So it gets lengthy. So please, if you don't submit, we do take off points for not following directions, by the way. So if you submit more than a minute, then you get docked points for that. So make sure you follow the directions.
Rachel's asking, in terms of portfolio work for the graphic design track, should I be concerned about having 3D works such as physical sculptures? Because I'm currently do not have any physical 3D work, but I'm willing to take a course next semester.
Well, you're going to have to take a 3D course if you haven't taken one already. It's part of the prerequisites for it. You will produce, if you're taking it here, you'll definitely produce physical works. Now, to meet the criteria, it could also be 3D model work or even 3D printed work. So it can be there's no real requirement for having it in there. Again, what we want to see are a couple of samples from foundations, again, so we understand where you are in the process. But we really want to see what you think your best work is. That's really what it concentrates on. So there's no real, I need 2 from this category, 2 from this category, 3 from this one. Not interested in that necessarily, but just, again, 15 solid pages of samples of what you consider to be your best work.
And that was for graphic design.
That's for graphic design,
Yep.
Yes. Yeah.
Also, I think I just want to interject. I may have made a mistake when I said how many courses graphic design needs. It's actually 7 courses. And again, those courses are on the website. I think I may have said 8 earlier.
Even better, one less.
There you go.
Let me count again.
It's going to be 6 next if we're careful.
And 7.
I see one here from Zoe Nessel in the chat. Says she's currently majoring in studio art, would like to go into game design with character design and concept art. And you'd like to know what should be following a major in an animation track instead of what I want to do. So I know you guys do concept art, but I'm just going to throw my 2 cents in because this happens all the time in graphic design. I get portfolios, and those are not graphic design portfolios. Those are illustration portfolios.
Yeah.
And that's what illustration kind of concentrates on in some of those areas, concept design, all of that, storyboarding, it all falls into that category. So
to kind of build off that,
you guys cover aspects of that, right?
Yeah, I think, at least in experimental, I've noticed a lot of students coming in wanting to just do storyboards and concept art. And I do highly recommend they explore the studio art BFA in illustration. That gives them a lot more access to a lot more drawing classes. So an example would be a student who likes to draw comes in and they have to take an experimental animation, a 3D modeling class. That may not be, again, their core passion. So the illustration BFA really allows them to focus on illustration and narrative structure. So definitely that's the studio art portfolio. If you're into concept art, at least for, I think BFA and illustration is better than experimental in that aspect.
So that being said, we have alumni that work for DreamWorks in the story department, and they're storyboard and concept artists that went through character only. It's really on the student to kind of find and learn what they really want to do and hone their skills there. But, storyboarding and concept art is part of the first year of character animation, but it's part of the pipeline. You're going to learn all of the pipeline for 3D and 2D in that process. So it does inform you on the design challenges of creating a 3D model. So as a concept artist, you're aware of those things, but it really depends on you. If you only want to do concept and illustrations or storyboard illustrations, then definitely illustration would be the way to go.
Another question in the chat. I submitted my portfolio on October 1st. My major is experimental animation. Do I have to submit my portfolio again?
No, not necessarily. So in this particular case, there's so many different students with different catalog years. So not everyone in here, but there may be students who have started 2 semesters earlier, a year earlier, and everywhere in between. So just with that said, those new courses I spoke about, if you would like access to courses like the professional development, the stop motion portfolio, things of that nature, I highly encourage you to apply this coming up spring. After this coming up spring, it will be a spring by spring basis when we let in students. So if you, without that entry this spring, you will not have access to those newer curricular classes.
And definitely follow up with advising also, because we need to double check which catalog year you're in. As Matt mentioned, you may have been, in a previous catalog year. We want to make sure that you've submitted a portfolio that you would be able to get into the program. So there's a lot to talk about there. So follow up with us.
Some of these we've already answered. If we have a minor, do you recommend finishing the minor before entering the cohort program? Can we take minor classes while taking those upper division courses?
You can do anything you want, but it's going to be really, really, really tough.
Yeah, I usually also recommend that. I think, again, Cheryl, you're right. You guys definitely picked, your own path, but you're looking at about 5 classes, including the electives that's dependent on graphic design and experimental as well, in which you're focusing on your core things. So that doesn't leave a lot of room if you want to graduate in a timely manner. So I think focusing on your tracks is the important part.
You want to eat, sleep, those kind of
preferably
things. Take a shower now and then. That would be good too.
Natasha asks, for the graphic design submission, is there any sort of suggestion you can make for building your portfolio? I just switched degrees and I'm trying to apply in the spring. I'm not sure how to start and what to practice outside of classes.
Come talk to me. My office hours are on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 1 to 3. So
there you
Then
go.
follow up with advising to make sure the courses are completed.
yeah, check with advising first
Yeah.
and then come see me.
Kind of similar lines. What type of work would the graphic design track want to see for the portfolio? Again, we do have all this information on our website, but Chuck, if you want to add in.
Again, if you want to put multiple images on those pages that are sized and in terms of resolution and physical size, those are all mentioned on the website. I want to see what you consider to be examples of your best work. That's really about it. It can be across a wide strata, and yes, you should definitely include some foundation work, but it really is, it can be work you produced outside. It can be if you've had an opportunity to work with professional clients and produce work that was actually printed, that's fine. You can include that as well. So it's a real mix. I can, again, if you would like to see samples, I can readily pull up samples. I'm not going to pull them up here because, again, of FERPA issues. We have some that have been cleared and some that have not, that they've given consent to for us to show students. But yeah, I'll be happy to walk through some of those and give you some samples of those.
Andrew asks, will this info session be posted on the Svad YouTube channel? Yes, we will be uploading this info session to the YouTube channel, and we'll email everyone who registered for this afterwards. So once it's uploaded, we'll send you all an email with the link.
There's a question. If I've already submitted for portfolio review for experimental animation BFA during the fall 21, would I have to resubmit my portfolio if I wanted to do studio art with an illustration focus? Rachel, if you submitted a studio art portfolio this fall, then you do not have to resubmit because it's the same portfolio for the studio art BFA.
And I touched base with her in a private message there, Wahida, as well. So
okay.
She should have, I told her to speak to you to declare that illustration.
Yeah, definitely follow up with us and we'll let you know what you need to do.
If we missed your question, copy it and paste it back in the chat because it's hard to scroll through all of this.
Yeah,
it's like a tiny little window.
We're trying to keep track of it. There's a question here. Is there a way that we can meet with someone to review our portfolio to see if we're on the right track to getting into our major?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think each of us have, whether it's portfolio review sessions that we've discussed with GDSA, with Chuck mentioned with industry professionals. I'm going to be holding one like maybe once a month, a virtual Zoom open office hours for folks to come in. Absolutely. We are the coordinators in which you want to contact, and keep an eye out, whether it's on Hannah, with Hannah sending an email or a social media post with those upcoming events. We'll make sure we continually contact you all.
For character animation, you can reach out to Joanne Adams, Darlene Hedricka, or myself to schedule some time in their office hours or our office hours. But please do me a favor and do not wait until January 28th to do that. A week before the portfolio submissions open, we will respond with, no, I'm sorry, we don't have the time. Because we don't. At that point, we don't. You should be doing that kind of stuff before December. Someone's asking about format for submitting the portfolio. Interested in graphic design, would it be best to upload my portfolio as a website, or is there a specific way in which it should be submitted?
It's listed again on the website. What we request is a consolidated PDF document. Do not submit links to external sources. Let me walk through a little bit about how our process works. It's not evaluated just simply by our faculty. We have an ad hoc committee of 8 working professionals that are also involved. So we need to have these files very concise and in a simple format so that they can go through these things again, because of the number of submissions that we have every year. It can get quite unwieldy. So we have a very simple format. It's a consolidated PDF, which consists of no more than 15 pages. So all of the parameters are set up on the website. You can read there at the SVAD site exactly how to structure that.
So if we can add there, because we get this question all the time, or we try to emphasize this in advising, read all of the directions and all of the instructions on the portfolio website. It's very important. They're going to be looking at that, you know, and it'll be a part of their decision making. So again, each portfolio is different. So make sure you're following the requirements for each of the portfolios. Also, if you're currently enrolled at UCF, use your Knight's email when you submit that portfolio, and read your Knight's email. If you know, I would say daily at this point, because all UCF pertinent information is going to go to your UCF account, or UCF Knight's email account. We have sent emails out to students and we don't get responses, we'll have to call. So please check your emails daily because it's so important.
I'm not seeing any other questions. If you have a question, go ahead and add it to the chat or raise your hands. But in the meantime, does anyone have anything to add or bring up?
So Ashley Mendez just asked this question, and it's probably good to mention to everyone. Autodesk Maya is free for students. You have to create an account, and you have to confirm your eligibility every year now. They changed it. It used to be you could only get it for 3 years and that was it. But I think they realized that students are starting in high school learning software. So I put the link in the chat. And so we, both programs use Maya as the 3D software, and you can access it through that link.
And I think in closing for everyone, just, definitely check out the websites of the programs that you're interested, just to kind of sum up everything. Open communication is encouraged and welcome for all SVAD students. Regularly speaking to your advisors is very, very important. Checking your Knight's email and official UCF channels to assure that you're kind of on track. And ultimately, all of us here in this meeting want you all to succeed, and more importantly, be put in a track that is best for you and your future. So there's a lot of times where I have had students who come to experimental and end up moving to graphic design because they get into both and flourish in that program where they wouldn't have had the best experience in experimental. The ultimate goal is to, make sure that you're excited about the content. It's not all perfect content in the sense of every class you take isn't going to be, maybe the thing that you're looking for, but our ultimate goal is that professional success for you. So, continue to ask questions, email us, attend these events that we're speaking about, and definitely check your Knight's email, because a lot of these events will be blasted out to you as a student through that Knight's email. And we wish you all the best of luck. We're so excited to work with all of you in some capacity in the future. All of us we still intermingle amongst tracks as well. So you may still, get to work with a few of us depending on the track you got into. So we really appreciate y'all coming today.
And to piggyback on that, I just want to say, keep positive, open-minded. Every class you take is going to have lots of information that you want to learn and stuff that you're not sure why you're learning it. And it won't be clear maybe for 10 years in the future. But I get emails constantly from students saying, I wish I had paid more attention for certain things, or boy, that one class I had really has benefited my career. And I just wanted to let you know that, so keep that in mind as you go through the rest of your studies.
And know that you're going to be doing your job for the next 40 years. If you think about that, it's a long time. And so,
or 50,
or 50. Yeah. It's, one thing Wahida and I always talk about is, if you do not get into your track, it is not the end of the world. There are alternatives. It is a small bump, a blip, a stumble, in a seemingly long, fruitful career. So for all of you, I mean, one of my best examples is I applied with a friend when I was in school. He didn't get in and I got in, and he reapplied, waited a year, got into his program, and now is an art director at Electronic Arts. So just because it is competitive, but just because you don't get in, that doesn't mean give up your dreams and your hopes. And, it means just a subtle pivot is needed and more communication with your SVAD advisors to kind of get you there. So ultimately, we want to see you succeed at UCF. So just keep that in mind as, this can be an often stressful situation for a lot of people, but, keep your chin up and just keep making art, keep being creative.
Any last questions? Not seeing any more questions, so we'll go ahead and close it out here. And if you have any further questions, please email one of the area coordinators. They're all listed on our website. I'll be uploading this info session to YouTube shortly, so we'll be emailing that out as well, so you can rewatch this or send it to your friends who couldn't make it. So thank you all so much, and have a great rest of your day.
Wait,
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Wait,
you.
sorry.
Great day.
Guys,
Can I hold on one moment? I believe one person has another question. Natalia Trepanier. She said, what do you suggest for students with art block?
Natalia, feel free to email me at mattd@ucf.edu. I'd be happy to give you some tips and pointers on that, but feel free to shoot me an email.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks,
so
everyone.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
bye.
All right, have a good day. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Have a great one.
You
Thanks.
too.